On a freezing afternoon, a millionaire walked past a homeless woman who whispered, "Can I have just one bite?" What happened next stunned everyone in the restaurant and turned a single meal into a second chance at life. Watch until the end, and if it moves you, hit subscribe so you never miss stories like this. The wind cut through the streets like invisible knives. People hurried past, clutching coffee cups and wrapping scarves tighter around their necks. On the corner, huddled against a brick wall beneath a flickering street lamp, sat a woman whose world had been reduced to a thin blanket and a cardboard sign. "Hungry, anything helps." Her name was Claire, 42, once a chef in a small family-owned restaurant. But life had a way of unspooling fast a landlord who doubled the rent, a sick mother whose hospital bills drained her savings, and finally, a fire that claimed the apartment she'd called home for 12 years. That was 18 months ago. Now the sound of passing footsteps had replaced the hum of a kitchen, and the cold sidewalk was her only bed. At a sleek corner bistro, Michael Carrington sat alone by the window. The millionaire tech investor was known for his sharp suits, ironclad deals, and an air of impatience with anything inefficient, including people. Today was different. He wasn't in the middle of a deal. He was simply tired. The success he'd built on late nights and calculated risks now felt strangely hollow. He pushed a fork into his untouched steak, staring absently at the street outside. That's when he saw her, the woman on the corner, knees drawn to her chest, lips moving faintly as though whispering to herself. Minutes later, Michael stepped outside, carrying a brown paper bag from the restaurant. His driver offered to bring the car around, but Michael shook his head. He crossed the street, the smell of truffle butter escaping from the bag. Claire didn't notice him until his shadow fell across her. She looked up, startled, her eyes darting to the bag in his hand. He crouched down. "Cold day," he said. She gave a small nod, her voice hoarse. "Colder nights." Michael glanced at her hands, red and cracked from windburn. He opened the bag slightly. The scent must have reached her because her shoulders trembled. She swallowed, hesitated, then whispered the smallest request. "Can I have one bite?" People streamed past them, some glancing curiously but quickly looking away. To them it was just another rich man being approached by the homeless. The script was predictable. Maybe a coin, maybe nothing at all. And then the man would leave. But Michael didn't answer right away. His eyes searched hers as if trying to see the woman behind the blanket. Finally, he said something no one expected. "You're going to eat this with me inside." He held out a hand. She hesitated the last time she'd stepped inside a nice place. Security had thrown her out before she could even explain she wasn't there to beg. "I'm not dressed for," she began. "I didn't ask about your clothes," he interrupted gently. When she placed her trembling hand in his, the entire street seemed to pause. People in line for the coffee shop stared openly now. A man muttered something about publicity stunts. But Michael didn't look back. The bistro fell into a stunned hush when they walked in together. Michael ignored the murmurs and led her to his table by the window. The waiter's eyes darted between them, unsure what to do. "2 glasses of water," Michael said firmly. "And whatever she wants on the menu." Claire shook her head. Just one bite. I don't want to waste." "You're not wasting anything," Michael said. "You're eating." Her fingers traced the edge of the linen napkin like it was silk. She ordered the same steak he had, though her voice trembled on the words. When the food arrived, she stared at the plate for a long moment before picking up the fork. Her first bite was small and almost reverent. As she chewed, her eyes watered, and she covered her mouth with her hand as if afraid of what might slip out. "It's been so long," she whispered. "I used to make things like this." Michael's brow furrowed. "Used to?" "I was a chef," she said softly. "I cooked for people who probably didn't even think about where their food came from. But I loved it. The smells, the sounds. It was my life." "What happened?" he asked. She looked out the window at the street, where her blanket still lay, crumpled against the wall. Life happened, and then it just kept happening. Michael didn't touch his food for the next 10 minutes. He just listened. Claire spoke haltingly, but each detail painted a picture of someone who had built something beautiful only to watch it burn away. The restaurant noise faded into the background. For once, Michael wasn't thinking about market trends or venture capital. He was thinking about how easy it was to step over someone's story without ever hearing it. When Claire finally pushed her plate back, she whispered, "Thank you. I'll be out of your way now." But Michael shook his head slowly. No, he said. You're not going back out there. Claire froze. She had heard those words before. You're not going back out there. But they'd always been followed by conditions. Pity wrapped in control. This felt different. I mean it, Michael said, leaning forward. You're not walking back into the cold tonight. She shook her head. You don't even know me. I know enough, he replied. And I know I'm not about to let you disappear back onto that street after this conversation. Why? She asked, eyes narrowing. Because you need a good story for your friends? For social media? His lips tightened. Because I've spent years collecting things that don't matter, and I've never once stopped to think about people who do. The bistro had fallen into an uncomfortable silence around them. At the next table, a woman in a designer coat whispered to her companion, "This is so staged." But Michael didn't flinch. "I have an extra apartment," he said finally. "Not a spare room, a whole place. It's been sitting empty for months. You can stay there, no strings, just until you get back on your feet." Her fork clinked against the plate. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious. And if you still think I'm doing this for show, I'll take you there myself tonight. No cameras. No reporters. Just a key." The offer was too big, too sudden. Her instincts screamed, "Don't trust him." But there was something in his eyes, not pity, not charity. Recognition, maybe. Like he saw a version of himself in her. "Fine," she whispered. "One night?" "That's it." Michael nodded. One night. They left the bistro under a cloud of curious stares. His sleek black sedan pulled up, the driver's eyebrows arching when he saw Claire. She sank into the leather seat, the warmth almost making her dizzy. They didn't speak much on the drive. She kept glancing out the window, as though afraid the city might vanish if she blinked. When they arrived, Michael led her into a high-rise, building where the lobby smelled faintly of jasmine. The apartment door opened to reveal soft lighting, polished floors, and a view of the city that looked like something from a postcard. "This isn't real," she murmured, touching the wall as if expecting it to crumble. "It's yours," he said simply, "for as long as you need." She turned sharply. "I said one night." "And I said as long as you need," he countered. "There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the closet, showers down the hall. I'll check in tomorrow." After he left, Claire stood in the center of the living room, unsure whether to sit or lie down or just stay standing. She ran the water in the bathroom until steam filled the air, the hot spray hitting her skin like 1,000 tiny miracles. That night, for the first time in nearly 2 years, she slept in a bed. No sirens, no wind rattling cardboard walls, just quiet. When Michael returned the next day, she was in the kitchen cooking. The smell of sautéed onions and fresh herbs filled the air. "You cook?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "I live to cook," she said, sliding a plate toward him. "This was my life before everything fell apart." He took a bite, his eyebrows lifting. "You're wasted on the streets, Claire. Tell that to the restaurant owners who wouldn't hire someone with no address," she replied. Michael set down his fork. "What if I told you I could change that? I have contacts, investors. We could open something small, yours to run. No one needs to know where you came from unless you want them to." Her hands trembled again, but for a different reason this time. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you only asked me for one bite," he said quietly. "And I realized I've been taking the whole plate my entire life." It took weeks of paperwork, planning, and convincing her to believe it was real. But 2 months later, a small restaurant opened on a sunlit corner. Its name, Second Bite, made customers curious enough to walk in. Claire stood in the kitchen on opening day, wearing a white chef's coat for the first time in years. Michael stopped by that afternoon, leaning in the doorway as he watched her laugh with her staff. "This is yours now," he said. She looked at him, eyes shining. "No, this is ours. Because you didn't just give me food that day. You gave me back my life." Months later, Second Bite had become more than a restaurant. It was a place where anyone who came in hungry left full, and those who couldn't. Pay never left empty-handed. And sometimes when a stranger would hesitate at the door and whisper, "Can I have one bite?" Claire would smile, pull out a chair, and say the same words Michael once told her. "You're eating with me inside."